Hi there. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to show you how Marquee 360's PPM360 Planner Accelerator can transform the way your organization manages work and projects. As you may know, Microsoft recently introduced the new Planner, a modern work management tool designed to simplify task tracking, improve collaboration, and help teams stay aligned. PPM360 takes Planner to the next level by extending its capabilities, seamlessly connecting it with the Microsoft tools you already use every day. This means you get the simplicity of Planner with the added power of portfolio and project management all in one connected solution. With PPM360, you can manage your full project lifecycle, from ideation and prioritization to resource planning, portfolio oversight, reporting, and more. It's designed to give you visibility and control without leaving your Microsoft environment. Now I'll hand it over to Stella Salome, who will walk you through a full demo of our PPM360 Planner Accelerator in action.
Marquee 360's PPM 360 tool provides an area for project management as well as intake and reporting. Today, we're going to walk through this PPM 360 tool. Here, we can see that we have one unified experience on the left-hand navigation here for our project management needs. Starting with the dashboard, we can see all the data for project information that is currently available in the system, all of the projects. Now, here on the left-hand nav, we have this area for project requests. And when I click on this, it's going to open this in a new tab here, as we can see. We can see here that I can see a request that I've submitted, and this is going to mark the ideation phase of a project lifecycle. This is an area where users can submit project requests for new ideas. Now, this is built on built on Power Platform's Canvas app, and the data set behind this is a SharePoint list. The reason why we do this is that way users that need to access this to submit new project requests don't require a plan license. Now we can see here on the gallery, I can see the July webinar was a request that was submitted, and what I can see here some high-level information. To get into the request, I'll click this area here, and I can see some information about the request. To submit a new request, I can submit new here, and we can start by filling out some basic information on the request information. I can also put in a project description as well. I can select a request type, project sponsor, a location, project department. And now keep in mind, all of this is customizable. This is just our out-of-the-box example. For intake, we do have a detailed requirements area, requirements phase of our implementation, where we would walk through this and identify what fields are important for your intake process. On our project details tab, we're going to see some other fields here. One, for example, is where I can assign the project manager. Now, this can be assigned either by the requester at the time of request or by the approver at the time of approval. I have an area for scoring as well. We can see here that as I select values, it's going to give me a priority score. Now, most customers do choose to hide this priority score from the users. This is another example of something that would be decided during the requirements phase. We also have an area for attachments, and with our updated solution, all attachments attached in the intake request do carry over to the new project once it's been created. We also have a new dynamic scoring as well, as you can see here. And when all required fields are completed, I get this nice check mark here indicating that my submit button becomes enabled. Now I'm going to go ahead and submit my request. Now that I've submitted my request, the first workflow, which is called our approval workflow for intake, will be initiated. This workflow is built on Power Automate, which is also using Power Platform as well. Now for approval options, there are multiple different approval options when it comes to intake. We can have a single approver. So this request would send an email to a single approver, and that approver would then review the request and they could approve directly from email. Alternatively, you can have multiple approvers, whether it be through a multi-series approval or a batch approval. What a multi-series approval would indicate is, for example, it would go to approver one, that approver would review and approve. It would then go to approver two, and so on. That's a multi-series approval option. We also have a batch approval. With batch approval, you would indicate specific approvers. Let's say you have 3 approvers. Once this request is submitted, all 3 approvers would receive that request at the same time, and they would then identify if they approve the request or not. We can see that I received this email. Your request has been submitted for approval. This is the first email that the requester receives. So after submitting a request, I, as the requester, will receive this email here letting me know that this has been submitted for approval. Next step in the workflow is going to be the approver email, which we'll see here in a minute. Now, in addition to approvers being able to approve directly from email, as we're going to see, approvers can also decide they would rather come into the request and have a PMO tab here where they would need to come in and assign a project manager or review the request, requiring approvers to actually go into the request itself. Both options are with our PPM360 tool. Here's the email I mentioned that the approver would receive. As you can see here, I have some information about the request, which is the request name. I have some information here, which you would also indicate during the requirements phase. So we have here who it's been submitted by, the project name, the project description, as we can see here. I'm going to go ahead and select approve. I can enter some comments and then hit submit. This is going to initiate the second step in our workflow, and that is going to be the project creation workflow. That project creation workflow is also going to use Power Automate. It's going to look at what fields in the request I want to map over to my new project, and it's going to create that project in their PPM360 tool here. Once again, those decisions about what fields would map over would also be determined in the requirements phase. You can map as many or as little fields as you want. It's also looking at who the project manager is. And that project manager is going to receive an email and also be listed as the project owner. I press refresh. I can see that it's been approved and from the project creation phase. Now, after my project's been created, there are 3 different ways I can access my project. The first is going to be this link that's going to appear here. My status is project created, and I can click on my link to open it directly in PPM360. The second is going to be an email that I'm going to receive, and that email is going to say you've been assigned as the project manager, and here's the link to manage your project. The third, in PPM360 directly here, I can see that in my plans area under my active plan, the project appear once it's been created here in this area. This My Active Plans view by default shows the project manager and it shows them any plans, the active user, any plans where they are the project manager. Let's go ahead and dive into one of the projects that have already been created. I'm going to go ahead and click on this link, and it's going to open my project for me in PPM360. Now here's my project, which I also could have accessed from the plans area by simply clicking into this July webinar plan, as you can see here. This is my summary tab. As we can see here, some fields have mapped over. So obviously my request name became my project name. Plan start and plan finish date also likely mapped over as well as any other things like project type would typically match over as well. We have some other key fields here that I'd like to discuss, such as project manager. This was assigned at the time of intake as well. We have other fields such as business sponsored champion, business unit as well. This can be used for if you have multiple business units, you'd utilize this field to have specific business units only see project data related to their business unit. We have a Microsoft Teams integration field as well. And I'm going to use this trigger field here. I'm going to switch it to yes, and I'm going to save. I'm going to receive this notification here saying team is being set up. We'll let you know when it's ready. What this is doing is actually creating a Teams for my project. Now, options we have here is that if you know every single project is going to need a Teams, we actually can have that Teams automatically created in the project creation workflow from intake. If not every project is going to need a Teams, We then recommend this trigger field. That way project managers can trigger this TS and they'll see the team is being set up. We're about to see here that after the team has been created, in my toolbar here, I'm going to see a new button that's going to say open. And now we also have this field here called Planner Sync. When I trigger this to yes, this means that any tasks that I assign to users will automatically appear in Planner in their Planner application. Now, the benefits in that is that if I have team members that I'm assigning to tasks that don't have a plan license, I can trigger this to yes, and when I assign someone a task in the tasks area, they will receive a Teams notification letting them know they've been assigned to a task, and that link will then take them to the planner under my tasks where they can see their plan and manage the progress on their plan. That progress will then read back to my schedule. Now switching over to a different project here. We can see that open Teams button that will appear. Once again, everything we're seeing here is customizable. So we would utilize that requirements phase in order to gather what is most important for your team for project management. Moving on to our business case tab. We're going to have a business case tab here. Once again, it's customizable. It's filled using rich text here, as you can see. I have a business case field where I can add some notes about my project. On our project charter tab, a lot of times we're going to have some fields here that will typically carry in from intake, such as the score, and then based on the score, priority and urgency will be set as well. From my status tab, this is where I'm going to create my status reports, as you can see here. Now, a quick call out to our reports. We do have a nice project status report, as we're going to see here. And this correlates with status reports that are created in the tool. If I click into one of my existing status reports here, I can see some information entered about the status report. I can enter things like my recent accomplishments, next steps, and additional comments. I also have my KPIs as well. Now, the overall health is actually going to be calculated here, but once again, during the requirements phase, you can choose to have users manually set that instead. Based on the most recent reporting date, it's going to give me my status summary here, my KPIs. It's also going to log in the active issues, risks, or changes I have from those tabs as well. In my financials tab, we have a very basic layout in our out of the box, but of course, this is absolutely customizable during the requirements phase. For example, we have a lot of customers that choose to add CapEx and OpEx as well. So we have like a CapEx budget and an OpEx budget field, and those two actually calculate to give us our budget field, as you can see here. We can see that as I enter actual cost, my remaining budget field, which is locked, is going to calculate budget minus actual cost to give me my remaining budget. My resources tab here is very important. It's going to show me all of the resources that are assigned to this project. These resources get assigned by being assigned to tasks, or I can simply assign a task to my project. We can see here that I also have role, which is going to be key because this role can actually be added as a filter on my resource reports. And I can narrow down, for example, on my reports, such as how are my developers doing this week, and figure out what the developers are assigned. This is very useful to project managers and resource managers as well. Of course, when I assign a task to resources, we can see here in my schedule area, I have these users assigned to tasks. As I send them to tasks, we're going to see that they're going to be added to my resources area. So I can see here, for example, Ali is assigned to tasks ranging from 8.1 to 8.14. She's playing the role of a civil engineer on this project. She has a total of 16 hours assigned to her across all of her tasks. I also can see here in the resource engagements area but I can also manage engagements as well rather than tasks. In my tasks area here, as we can see, I have my project schedule. For those of you familiar with Planner Premium, this is basically going to be a premium plan embedded into our tasks tab. So all the capabilities we have with Planner Premium, you're going to see here. So I'm going to have my 15 out of the box Microsoft columns, plus the ability to create up to 10 custom task fields, which can be a text, a date, a number, a yes, no, or a choice. Now, schedule templates can be applied. So for example, you can say that based on the request type, a specific schedule template needs to be applied, and that will be applied at the time of project creation. Users then have a starting schedule. Alternatively, you can choose to create schedules from scratch as well. This is our board view, but we also have, this is our grid view, but we also have our board view where we can drag and drop, create a new bucket, and drag and drop tasks. We also have our timeline view, as you can see here, our charts view, and our people view as well. Using our people view, I actually can drag and drop tasks to assign them to different people. And that'll be updated in my resources field as well. We also have an area for goals where I can add a goal and assign it to tasks, as well as an assignments area, as we can see here. Task baselines. This is a new feature that we have added to our solution recently, and this is going to allow you to set up to 15 baselines, as you can see here, throughout your project. Baselines are created by triggering this field here to yes. That is going to then populate in the table here below all of the current tasks with the baseline start, baseline finish, project task, and project finish, as well as baseline duration, effort, and some other information about the task as well. A baseline is a screenshot of your schedule and time that you can refer to back. So for example, I can see here that I've set anything was changed, my original baseline, and then I have baseline 2 set as well, which we can see here at my current baseline. I can see that baseline 2 is actually set on August 14th as well. I also have an area for risks, issues, changes, and decisions. And with these, I'm actually going to have a correlating dashboard here. So my risks are entered and they show on this risks dashboard. This is very useful because I can use the filters to narrow into specific information. So for example, I have the project manager is set to Stella Simpson, and Stella currently has 41 risks open across all of her projects. Let's click into a risk that I've created. And we can see more data about our risk. I can drag and drop this to update the category, but obviously during the requirements phase, you determine what you want this board view to show. And we also have the grid view here as well. Under issues, we can come in and create a new issue here. I can enter this new issue information. I can also select the category and assign it to someone, and they'll receive an in-app notification that they've been assigned to this issue, set a due date, and also enter a request here as well. Now we can see that issue's been added here. Once again, I also have that correlating issues dashboard that I mentioned before as well, which is very useful for narrowing down on issues and managing issues from a high level. This also can be used by, your risk management team as well. We also have an area for changes here. So I can come in and create a new change. This change can also be sent for approval. Our out-of-the-box workflow is going to, when I trigger this to requested, it's going to send an approval workflow to whoever is in the assigned to field. This can also be changed during the requirements phase for a more in-depth change management process, depending on your current process, or if you want to utilize switching to this tool to create a new process as well. And so again, we do have that changes dashboard here, where we can narrow into more specific information, such as I want to see all the changes for my projects. I can select myself from the project manager field, you can see here. We also have an area for decisions. So we can come in and create a new decision. Once again, this is also customizable during the requirements phase, like everything else that we're seeing. We also have an area for lessons learned. Lessons learned is typical for most projects closing out process and can be very useful for PMO to review on a quarterly basis or biannually. By reviewing lessons learned that are logged during the closing phase of many projects, PMO can utilize this to potentially make changes to their process based on lessons learned that may be consistent across many projects. Although we currently don't have a lessons learned dashboard, one can easily be added during the implementation phase. And of course, we have an area for attachments as well here. Our business process flow here at the top is going to indicate the active stage of our project. As we can see here, we have approvals that are embedded in here. So I can say, for example, I'm in the initiation phase. I want to move. I have a series of questions I have to answer as a project manager. It would then go through initiation gate approval. Now, the business process flow may or may not have approvals depending on what you determine during the requirements phase. If it does have approvals, as far as determining who the approver is, approvers can look to a specific field, such as the business sponsor champion should be the approver, or it can be a set list hard coded that would always be the same approvers across all projects. You can say that I need an approval to move from initiation to planning, or most often we have typically people want approval for project managers to close their project out, but not every single gate might need an approval. Once again, that's customizable during the requirements phase. Now that we're done with project level information, let's go ahead and review portfolios and programs. As you can see here within my plan, I do have a program field and a portfolio field. This is going to be a lookup field, so it's going to look up to existing programs. I can assign my project to a specific program by utilizing these fields. Project managers out of the box security role has what we call an append to access. So I can append or add my project to any existing program or portfolio. Here on the left-hand nav, we have areas specifically for portfolios and programs that PMOs can utilize. If I go to my active portfolios here, I can see the portfolio name, who the portfolio manager is, the overall portfolio health, schedule health, financial health, the budget, actual and remaining budget. Let's go ahead and click into one of these projects. If I click into this project here, I can see a description of the portfolio. Once again, everything we're seeing is customizable. So if you need to track your portfolio information on a more general level, additional fields can easily be added here during the requirements phase. In portfolio financials, we're going to see that this portfolio budget here is actually going to be a sum of all of the project's budgets that live in this portfolio. Same goes for actuals, forecast, remaining, and portfolio variance as well. On my projects tab, I'm going to see this view here of project information. This view is also determined during the requirements phase. So we would assess which fields are most important for capturing your project. And we would then assess that here during the requirements phase. For programs, we have here our programs, same concept as portfolios. Now you may be asking, what's the difference between a portfolio and program? As far as the business definition goes, projects within the same program can typically share resources across projects. So for example, I may have like a construction related program, and those resources that are within the project across that program could be shared across different projects within a specific program. Versus portfolios, typically projects within the same portfolio are managed more on a fiscally level and may or may not be able to share resources across projects. Now, with that said, that is the typical business definition of portfolio and program. Ultimately, your business can define what a portfolio program is to them based on their own definition. We would then teach that to your users and they would follow that definition. Let's go ahead and click into one of our programs. We can see here some high level information. Once again, this is customizable as well. We have our status here. Now, this is actually manually set out of the box, but a calculation can be applied here. This means that I can say, for example, if at least 50% of the projects that live in this program have an overall health of on track, then this should be on track, and so on. Typically, customers do want to add the other two KPIs, which are resource health and as well, scope health as well. In our financials, same concept. We're going to see all of our budgets for all the projects, actual costs remaining, and all of that, and some up here as well. Now we have this new timeline view that we've recently added. And let me go ahead and click into a program that has some projects so you can see this better. So we can see here on our timeline view, this is something we've recently added, and we can see here that the color is going to indicate the current overall health of the project. I can see the project name, the start date, the finish date, and the progress here. So this one's 18%, and it looks like this one's in trouble. I can hover over it to see the project name, the overall health, who the project manager is, the start, finish, and the progress as well. Under projects, same thing here. This is the view of the projects that live in this program. We would identify what fields are most important to you to capture your program level, and we would identify these here. We also have an area for resources. As we can see here, these are all my atypical resources. And then I can capture the default utilization and the resource capacity here as well, which we're going to see in our engagements report. I also can identify the role. So this active role here. So for example, her default role is security consultant. That means when Erin is added to a project in that resources table, it's automatically going to give her the role of security consultant because that is her default role. However, this can be changed project by project. We also have an area for certifications and skills here as well, which we're going to see in the characteristics area. In our availability area, we're going to see availability for different users. So I can search for myself and see availability, as we can see here. We also have an area for engagement, which is going to correlate with our engagements report. So I can see here for Allie, here's all the projects that she's on and the year that she's engaged in all of them. So I can see, for example, on this project here, she's engaged in August and September, 0.25%. And then for this one, she's here. So this is a good way for us to make sure that there's not overlapping. And this is ultimately going to feed into our resource engagements report, which we're going to see when we get to our reports area here in a minute. We also have an area for roles. This is where resource managers would come in and create roles that can then be assigned to resources by a project manager. Here's an area for characteristics. Characteristics can be made and then assigned to users. Typically during the requirements phase, I recommend adding a resource name. So I can come in here, and if I need a specific resource, I can then filter here, filter and search by a specific characteristic, and then it would show me the resources that have that characteristic, which is very useful when looking for a resource to assign to a project. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our reports. Our request dashboard is going to have data from the intake application that we looked at the very beginning. Once again, we do include time to review requirements for everything here. We start with intake, we then go to PPM360, and we go last on reports. That way, by the time we get to reports, we've identified what fields are most important for you. We'd go carefully through each report where we have a very detailed document, and we would document what specific fields you need. So for example, we have desired go live column here, correct? But if you're not using desired go live column, we'd look to replace this column with a field you actually are using that's important for your data. Now this request dashboard is going to use that SharePoint site as the data set, which is coming from that intake app, the Canvas app that I mentioned at the very beginning. All other reports are going to use Dataverse data set, which is coming from PPM360. We have our portfolio health report. We have our portfolio dashboard report, which is going to show us projects by project manager, budget forecast by project, projects by phase, and this phase is going to be pulling from the active stage, which is going to be that business process flow we saw at the top. Once again, we would add additional filters you need during the customization phase during the requirements. We have our portfolio timeline report, as you can see here. Color coding is my project manager currently. So I can see myself here. I'm in purple. So it looks like I have a lot of projects overlapping. So I would look to, maybe switch project managers. So this is also a pretty good one for resource managers as well. A portfolio milestone. And as we know, by definition, a milestone is a task within a schedule that is 0-day duration, 0 hours. So those tasks will appear on the milestone report here. We also have our program health report. Our status report, which we already went ahead and took a look at earlier. It's going to show us a lot of high level information. Those fields from the most recent status report, as well as risks, changes, issues. Very useful thing here is that with these links, I can actually click into and open the risk that's specifically noted here and the link for the project as well. This is pulling from my schedule, so it's showing 32% complete. My actual start, my actual finish, my plan, and then my KPIs as well. And a lot of this information is going to be pulling essentially from our financials tab or our summary tab. I also have my key contacts here at the top as well. Our risks dashboard, we went ahead and took a look at earlier, as well as our issues dashboard, changes dashboard. Now we have our resource dashboard here, which is going to show me some high level information. Once again, I can narrow into more specific information using my filters here on the right. I have my resource assignments view, and this is basically going to show me all the tasks by project that I'm assigned. So here I have my name, resources Stella Sloan, my name here, and then I have resource project tasks. So Stella Sloan is on these projects, and here are the specific tasks, and here's the status of these tasks. So I can see from 8/3/2020 to 7/14/2025, I have completed 21%. These are the effort hours assigned. Of course, we can use our start and finish date filters to narrow into more specific dates on my task assignments. A resource availability report. This is going to pull from that engagements area we saw on the resources tab. This heat map is great because I can see resources that are over allocated. So for example, I can see that Akash is over allocated by this much for these months. So what I would do is I could add a role filter here, and then I could switch work or move some work. If I click on this, I can see all the work that he's assigned that equals this overage here. And this is basically takes the default utilization and subtracts it from their actual engagements. We also have our task overview. And our project timeline as well. This is going to show us not just the project level, but the project and tasks. And I can use collapse all here to collapse all and open them up here. In addition to PPM360, we also do have a financials 360 and a timesheets application. Let's go ahead and take a look at our financials application. This can be added on top of PPM360 on any tool. Now this financials 360 section, as you can see here, I have an area for purchase recs, purchase orders, invoices, and currencies. And what we can actually do is we can embed this into the financials tab. So earlier in the session, we looked at financials and saw that that's very high level information. But what we can do is we can actually apply a different form, which we're going to see here. And if I go to the financials tab here, I can see that I'm going to have an area for financials. So this is obviously more depth here. I have my area for budget where I can track by month. So I come in here and add a new financial line details you can see here. And now I get that line in my actuals and forecast as well. And I can track this. Now we do have really nice financial insight reports that come with this. Additionally, if you get Financial 360, we can also integration is also possible. So we can integrate with SAP, JDE, basically almost any financials tool. We can integrate and we'd identify unique identifiers such as project number, and we would bring in active financials information from that tool as well. So this financial statistics application can act as an integration or simply as monitoring, as you can see here. So I can enter my actuals, my budget, as you can see here. And then I get my actuals. Also an area for purchase recs, purchase orders, and invoices as well. It's our high-level overview of our financials application. Let's go ahead and take a look at timesheets as well. Now with our timesheets application, this is customizable as well. We can see where I have my view, and it's going to show me all my timesheets I've submitted, who the owner is, the timesheet manager who it will go to for approval, my total hours that it was created on, timesheet status, and created by. Let's look at one that's in progress. As you can see here, this is a timesheet that's in progress. It's been started, but has not been submitted yet. It's still in progress. We can see here these timesheet lines, and this is based on tasks that the user is actually assigned. I also have some admin lines that I could add some time for here as well. And I get my line total here at the end. This is our model-driven timesheet app. We actually do also have a Canvas timesheet app. The main difference between those two is actually going to be UI and licensing. So our Canvas app timesheet is going to look more similar from a UI perspective, like our intake app looked, and it would look like in a different site or could be embedded into this application. And then our model-driven app is going to be built here using Dataverse, so it does require a plan license to access it. Versus if you use the Canvas app version, you only need a Microsoft 365 license in combination with the correct permission to access it. We can see what has already been approved. And of course, this is customizable as well. So we would obviously have a requirements phase for this if you chose to go with the timesheets app as well as the PPM360. And we would determine things like who the approver should be, which is typically the timesheet manager. Is that going to be the resource manager? Is that entered by the person at the time they assign their timesheet? When should timesheets be submitted? Their notification needs to go out. A lot of different things that need to be discussed around this. This is just a high level overview of our timesheets application. So today we've taken a look at PPM360, which is our new enhanced solution. We also took a look at our intake application where a project request can be submitted and which marks the ideation phase of a project lifecycle. And we also took a look at our 15 reports that come out of the box with our PPM360 tool.